could you share with me a little bit about your like tell me more about like your struggle with the 2 relationships and why was it 2? Because like I find that very interesting. Like I thought it would be 1, but it happened twice. So in a way, there's almost a pattern.
Yeah, 100% there's a pattern because like, and we always say what we don't change, we're choosing. So like, obviously because I kept finding myself, because I wasn't changing, I kept finding myself in those same relationships, and it was just a pattern that was going round and round in circles. It might have even been more than 2 relationships. There's the 2 that I can recall.
Right. So what happened? Like, did you feel like you had depression before, and then what happened that sort of triggered all these horrible things? And then what, if you're happy to share, what were
the depression probably played into my story growing up. I grew up back in New Zealand, obviously, with around a dad that's heavily involved in bike gangs, motorcycle gangs back in New Zealand, still is. And he raised me and my 3 older sisters. I'm the youngest of 4. And when I was my mum was never really around. She was heavy alcoholic, used to beat up my sisters and all that stuff, sexually abused and all that sort of stuff like that. And then when I was about 11 or 12, my sister's close to me in age committed suicide. And she was about 6 years older than me. And for me, I can remember like that was a turning point in my life where I was like, fuck, like, because when my dad came and woke me up and told me about it, I was just like, oh yeah, cool. And I was like, what do you mean, yeah, cool? Your sister just like, this is just, I don't even mourn or anything. And then I sort of just carried that through life because growing up around my dad, like the big tough guy, it was never said to me, but like my impression was don't fucking cry. Like you got to be a hard fella for the family. I was like, okay, sweet. So I never showed my emotions, never did any of that growing up. And I just bottled that up probably literally until I was about 29, 30, which is last year, a couple of years ago. And it all just blew up in my face. And then my mother passed away and I just kept holding on to that because my mum was never around. I had resentment towards women, which sort of played out in my relationships.
Wow.
And that's something I can only see now, but obviously at the time I didn't know. Like just because the awareness is there now, I can create those sort of and see the patterns that I was in where I was like having resentment towards women because I just didn't, I had a feeling that if a woman was going to come into my life, she was going to leave me anyway. Because my mum, that's what my mum did. So it's like, that's the pattern that I found myself in. And then it got to the point where I was investing so much of myself in these other people and then when they left me, I was like, fuck, what? I've got nothing. Like,
right. Yeah.
What am I without these people? Like I was putting so much of myself in these people that when they were gone, I didn't know who I was. And I was like, I might as well not be here. I don't have an identity almost, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's probably the easiest way I could put it.
So that sort of trauma, I guess you could call it, from your childhood growing up and sort of dragged on to your adulthood, but with sort of masked, I guess, under masked. layers and layers and layers and layers of all of this stuff. But then what do you think triggered it all to come out and really cause you like a lot of pain later in life? Because I'm sure there was a period, like even though you were pissed and you were like feeling horrible, I'm sure, but you got through it. What changed?
I don't even feel like I got through it. I feel like I was just dragging my ass through life.
Wow.
And it was just, I was angry at the world. Like I felt like the world owed me something.
Wow.
And I was always like, why does this shit keep happening to me? Like, and it was always like, poor me, that victim mentality. Or just like, why does this keep happening to me? And then it got to the point where I think it was my recent separation at the time before I started this journey, which was a couple of years ago. Just same thing again. I put so much into myself into that person, and then when they were gone, I was like, who am I? Like, and then that's when I got heavily suicidal. And then my sister actually found me. My older sister that I was living with at the time actually found me as I was about to kill myself, and then she was like, "Nah, you're not like." You need to do something. And I think she actually told my dad. That's what actually might have been the trigger. And he was back home and he rang me and he was like, fucking get your ass home now. And I was like, yeah. So I was like, okay. He was like, I'll book you a flight home tomorrow. Get your ass home. I was like, fuck, you're righto. I didn't even argue, I went home. And then it was just universe, I guess you could say. I was home and then there was a workshop in New Zealand the same day. That weekend. I got home on a Tuesday and the workshop was on a Saturday. It was a couple of hours from where I was living back in New Zealand, and I was like, Dad, I want to do this. And he was like, fuck, if you want to do it, I'll take you. So he took me, and then the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then when you got part of these relationships, were the relationships toxic that caused you so much pain later, or was it the breakup of just love? Like,
yeah, I would say a bit of both. I wouldn't say it was necessarily toxic. I definitely played my part in it, and that's obviously only because I can see that now. But at the time, just those bad behaviors, like just abusive, like not physically, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not physically, just more like mentally, emotionally, like and controlling. Just a real like piece of shit. Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Swear as much as you want. This is the great unloading. We unload it all, baby.
just a real like controlling. Piece of shit is the nicest way, probably the easiest way I could put it.
Yeah,
and I just didn't.
You look like a piece of shit.
Yeah, thank you. And because I didn't know who I was. I didn't like who I was. Yeah. So I would just put that on everybody else. I didn't like who I was, so I'd just make project my shit onto everybody else because I felt shit about myself, so I'd make you feel shit about yourself to make me feel better, like the poor man's version of self-worth, you know what I mean?
Hurt people,
that's it. Hurt people. So like by making somebody else wrong, it was just like the poor man's version of self-worth. Like I was just like, fuck, I feel better. Like, you know what I mean?
And do you and then when you got into that second relationship, was it the same pattern that you were feeling?
Exactly the same. And that pattern just kept, and like now that I look back on it now, it was just pattern after pattern, same relationship, same cycle, and it was just going over and over again.